student 13 adopt main principle of constructivism. So, student ask question, yeah, student explore, student discuss, student compare, etc. That's all derived from constructivism. Okay, let me read this. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Fabima rahmatin minallahi lintalahum walau kunta faddan walidal kalbi lam faddu min haulik fa'fu anhum wastaghfir lahum wasyawirhum fil ard fa idza azamta fatawakkal 'ala Allah. So by mercy from Allah, so by mercy blessed of Allah, wahai Muhammad, oh Muhammad, you have to be soft with them. You have to be lenient with them. And if you had been rude in speech and hard in heart, so you are proud, if you are rude, they would have disbanded. They would have been away from you, dispersed from you. They would have gone away from you. So pardon them, forgive them, ask forgiveness from God for them, and consult them, discuss with them in the matter. And when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him. Ali Imran 159. So, where do you teach your student to be lemah lembut, to be soft, to be tolerant, to be able to express themselves in a good way? Classroom. To be good person, you mock them. You mock them in the classroom year after year to be a good person. Not only knowledgeable, not only skillful, but also a good person. Good character, good attitude, pay tax, obedient to God, obey the rule, etc. So you educate your student in the classroom. Constructivism can do that. So you don't know constructivism, I would like you to leave your job. The sooner the better, because you are lecturer, you are teachers. Teachers, lecturer, educational authorities, principal should know constructivism. Not change it. This still umbrella of learning. That's why we fall behind probably. That is the way we teach in the classroom. Yeah. Why don't you follow the method of teaching in school in Singapore, in Sweden, in the developed countries? So actually, they design the course class in such a way that students do inquiry, discussing, share, learn deeply, develop their critical thinking. So that's your responsibility. Now Aceh, student from Aceh, high school graduate or high school from Aceh, is at the bottom. When they take the 2 entrance tests, university entrance test, Aceh the worst. So that's your responsibility. Me too. So you have to work very hard. Okay, I think that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Pak Sarwan.
Okay.
Sorry for any inconvenience to all the participants. And before we move on, I would like to tell all the participants, if you want to ask any questions about Pak Sarwan constructivism theory, you can do so after we complete the second speaker, Ibu Nas. And then you can try to chat give your question in the chat room. We will convey your questions to the speakers. Thank you. Okay, Ibu Nas, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I have already shared my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna start from the very beginning. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ika, who has invited me. And thank you for everyone who has been here. And thank you, Pak Sharwan. I have already listened to you, and this is a very interesting topic to discuss. And like Pak Sharwan, I also try to highlight an issue, especially in education. We are as an educationist, we have to be aware of this. I'm gonna highlight about gender bias issue in AFL textbook. Actually, issues in education, but especially because we are English language lecturers or English language teachers, we have to focus on EFL. Actually, what I'm going to talk about is the one that have been found by my students and I. We have already investigated the books mostly used in elementary school, secondary school, junior high school, and senior high school. We want to see whether there is a gender bias issue on those books, and the fact shows it exists. But before we come up to that, I'm gonna talk about sex and gender, because the rule, the problem, the core of the problem is not many people knows about the differences between sex and gender. Because they do not know about this, they always misinterpret whether this is sex or this is gender. Okay, talking about sex, we talk about biological aspect. For example, like I'm a woman, Pak Sharwan is a man. What I have as a sex, I mean, we are different. What I have, Pak Sharwan do not have it. As a woman, I can deliver a baby, but Pak Sharwan cannot do that. So this is what we call sex. This is assigned at birth by God. While gender is a social construction relating to behavior, attribute, or what we call by cultural expectation. You are expected to do this, you are expected to do that, not because of you are assigned at birth. Okay, I'm gonna show the differences in a table. So you can see that sex and gender, we talk about biological aspect for sex, but for gender, we talk about cultural aspect. Sex is given. Since we are born, we have certain attribute when you are a man or a woman. But gender is actually, we are trained through socialization, through exposure. All the time we are exposed with that. We think that this is our duty, but actually this is, we are exposed, we are trained to do so. And it cannot be changed. Sex cannot be changed, even though there are some certain people try to change it, but we can see that it doesn't work. But gender can be changed because it's talking about culture, talking about training. Sex role, it's related to sex role, while this related to gender role. And this is talking about men and women, talking about production and reproduction. When gender, we talk about cooking, raising children, climbing, becoming a worker. So when talking about cooking, it doesn't mean that this is only for women. It can be done by a man, but the problem is for women is always trained to cook. Not because this is not her duty as at birth. Actually, this is, you want to do it or not. You are trained to do so or not. So this is what we talk about gender. Okay. Yes, it's a matter, because most of the time it will lead to gender discrimination. There are 5 forms of common gender discrimination. First one is subordination. This is talking about certain sex is more important than other person, other sexes. When we have, so this is talking about who who got the priority. And the second one is talking about marginalization is always leading to the poverty. Who get access, who get the priority to get an access or certain situation. Double burden. This is about the workload, as you can see here, especially for career woman. She has to do lots of things at the same time. Not only about double burden, actually talking about multi-burden. A workload of men and women who have to work. He has to earn money. At the same time, he has to do unpaid domestic chores. And the fourth is stereotype. Stereotype is the belief, preconceived perception about a certain social group or a type of individual which lead to bullying. Like, yeah, there are lots of stereotypes for women. Yeah, actually, there are some we always do that in certain expression. And sexual violence. This is actually the one which is become the common thing here after the pandemic. We have a lot of report about this, especially during pandemic situation. There are a lot of cases about sexual violence in domestic environment. This is why gender matters, and we have to focus on that thing. And does it exist in education? Yes, it exists. There are three main ways in which gender bias is practiced. First, reinforcing stereotype of gender. Usually, it happens to the teacher when they give an assignment to do. For the man, for the female student will be different from the male student. We are different, but there are times we cannot be differentiated. And maintaining the separation of sexes and differentiating between boys and girls. And so we also found that school activities also different. Like in my kids' school, for example, like football, they have a certain course, exercise, but the only exercise they give is only football, and the only who play the football is only football. So while the female student is only cheering the boys to play the football. And also in the textbook, and also in the decision maker, and also in the separation system. Now I'm going to talk about in the textbook. Why we have to focus on the textbook? Because this is very important. Why we have to investigate it textbook? First, because it's guidance in learning, especially for ELT, which is the environment actually do not support us to speak English because everyone is speak Indonesia, speak Achinese. So the environment doesn't support us. The book become the main source for them. Primary form of linguistic input. So all the time they are exposed with that. As we have already seen, 75 to 90% Indonesian student use textbook for study. So they are exposed to that book. So when the book consists of thing, okay, we do not have to worry about it. What about if it exists or it consists of the thing that we have to avoid? So that's why before we use certain book, please investigate it, please analyze it. But the problem is talking about gender bias in education, especially in textbook, it's an insidious problem that not many people can see it. But the problem, it can give bad effect for people, bringing disadvantage and destructive effect for the both male and female who become the victim. Even as Sacker says that in region, victim of this have been trained through years of schooling to be silent. As we have already seen, that's why school environment actually really, some situation says that it's good for girl, but in the bad effect of that thing makes the female student become less assertive, which is used for when they have to find words when they have to look for job, because they are trained to be not assertive enough to do so. That's why we really focus on the textbook, and there are two research questions that we raise. The first one is, to what extent does gender bias exist in most popularly used EFL textbook in Aceh, Indonesia? What types of gender bias are found in the EFL textbook? Here we try to do content analysis, and the textbook that we choose is, before we choose it, we do a small survey, and we try to make a survey. We try to divide Banda Aceh into four regions: North, West, East, and South. We try to make a survey, which book that you use for this school, which book that you use for this school. And this is from elementary school, secondary school, junior high school, and also senior high school. And we have already found that elementary school, the most commonly textbook used is Grow with English. We try to focus on Grow with English for grade 4, 5, and for junior high school, we found that When English Rings the Bell is the most popular book which is used by teachers, by school, especially for grade 7 and 8. And for grade 9, junior high school prefer to use English on the Sky. So we focus on that. And for senior high school, Bahasa Inggris 10, 11, and 12, which is published by Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture, 2004, 14, and 2015. This is the corpus that we try to investigate. And we try to do, there are 5 variables we try to see. First, visibility. Visibility is the image, the figure, the picture shows in the books. The firstness, who come first? Who is mentioned first? Girl or boys? And the third, masculine gender construction. This is talking about, for example, when we become the chairman, we like to chairman, but I'm a woman, it should be chairwoman, or we use the gender fair language, which is chairperson. This is so, but most of the time, masculine gender construction become the commonly used by certain people. And also activity and occupation. And these 5 categories taken from previous research conducted by Amin and Berjandi 2012. And the technique is systematic. I think that I don't need to show this. Okay, and this is the finding. Especially for Grow with English, we focus on the Grow with English. 4 of 5 aspects contain gender bias in the textbook. Visibility, women show less than men in the picture of illustration. Most of the time we see male figure instead of female figures. And then firstness, woman is rarely mentioned. Most of the time, men is become the priority. And also, one study shows that in the class, when they try to make a checklist about who is mostly called by teacher, the survey shows that teacher lecture like mentioning female student compared to male student compared to female student. So this study confirmed the previous research. And also occupation. Women only can be a nurse and housewife in the occupational side. And also the significant appearance of gender bias is visible in the activity and occupation categories. I still remember when we tried to focus on, if I'm not mistaken, Grow with English book 4, they talk about continuous. There is a dialogue there. Where is your father? Where is your mother? My mother is in the kitchen. What is she doing? She is cooking. Where is your father? My father is in the living room. What is she doing? She is reading newspaper. Where is your sister? My sister in the kitchen. What is she doing? She is washing the dishes. Where is your brother? My brother is in the bedroom. What is he doing? Is listening to the music. Okay. If the problem here, not only because they are affirmed, they have to do that, as we can see, for leisure activity is only for male, but the chore duty is for female. It will be fair enough if, where is your father? My father is in the garage, for example. What is she doing? She is fixing the car. Where is your brother? My brother is in the garden. What is she doing? Cutting the grass. So they are responsible with their chore. But the fact shows no. And the textbook also shows gender stereotype, that picture female is the only one person who is responsible for the housework. Woman is cooking while man is reading a newspaper or drinking. And when we try to investigate a junior high school textbook for when English ring the bell, 7 and 8, and also English on the sky, this is the result. Male in 3 aspects: visibility, again, male figure always dominant, gender construction and activity, and also it happens to book 8, where male was more visible in the visibility also, while and there is a unique a new phenomena while female is in the firstness aspect, and this is another thing which is interesting to investigate. And also English for on the sky, male is in all aspects except person, and this is for junior high school. And when we try to investigate to the senior high school, visibility, male majority in images, and also it happens again, firstness, more male firstness, male is always mentioned first, and masculine gender construction, more male reference, and also activity show less bias. And this is a new thing when in the secondary, when in the senior high school. And occupation, male or outnumbered females in all textbook. Okay, this is the example when we found in when English ring on the bell. For example, this is a discussion, a dialogue. Benny says, "Please buy her a doll. Do not buy her a robot." Okay. And also another dialect. "Please all the girl bring your 7 kids." And also another dialect. "Hey Lina, hey, Lina is a girl. You can buy her a baby doll. Don't buy her a car toy." This is, we talk about gender. We don't talk about sex, because to some extent, there are many men and women have different passion. I don't like cooking, but I like doing garden. My husband likes cooking very much, but he doesn't like doing gardening. So it happens in my family. So this is what we talk about gender. And I'm gonna do, this is my closing remarks. And education is a necessity to prepare a human being, and we have to focus on that. Why we have to concern about this? As an education institution, it is the duty of school to provide students with education that can prepare them to achieve the goal. And gender issue is very important to highlight, because this is the first phenomena that we will see, because we have male and female students, and having gender awareness to be tolerant. Pak Syarwan has already talking about tolerance to gender differences is the key. And talking about gender awareness is not born, especially in our patriarchal society, where there has been a widespread belief that men have legal power over their families. And since gender awareness is the only can be gained through learning, is this the duty of school to train it. And again, as a linguist, gender construct become part of our consciousness through different mechanisms, beginning at home to institution of mass widespread socialization. Language is known as one of the institution of mass gender socialization, which is the most subtle but most pervasive form. It is difficult to separate the way we speak from our thought process. So the use of a sexist language, even if unwitting, will inevitably lead to changes in how we perceive gender. Therefore, sexist language is a powerful tool to maintain gender ideology. So to avoid that, it is the duty of LT teacher to make students aware of this kind of language. So from now on, please try to use gender fair language. If it is possible, let's say chairperson, we try to use that, because instead of saying chairwoman while chairwoman while the chairperson is a man, or chairman while the chairperson is. And also many studies show that gender bias in the society not merely occurs in the school, but it also enhanced there. The most common form of gender bias from unintentional acts by teachers, teaching method, and textbook. The bias can be against male or female, but most frequently it's against female. It operates by treating girls and boys differently. And in environment, this has resulted in unequal impact. So therefore, as an LT teacher and practitioners, we have to make an attempt to end gender inequality and bias at school. I think that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ibu Nas. Yes, I think your topic today is quite a popular issue in our ELT, and also attracts a number of questions related to gender bias. So we will begin our questions and answer session. I will just convey some questions from the participants. And then here we have questions from Pak Jarjani Usman, directed to Pak Syarwan. Okay, Pak Syarwan, do you practice what you preach in the presentation today? And if you could give an example of your practice based on constructivism theory in teaching and learning in your course. And also, is there any common problems that you experience when you implement the constructivism theory? Okay, Pak Syarwan, if you want to try answer first.
Okay. Okay, to a certain extent, I implement the constructivism in my teaching. So you know that I give opportunities for students to present. Not only me teach, but students also get turned to teach in the classroom. And I form groups, you know, I create group discussion, and I always relate the material to the real world, and I count the prior knowledge, and yeah, I get them to do inquiry, assignment, searching on their own. Yeah, there's inquiry. And then yeah, collaborative, of course, if there is assignment, I get them to work together as collaborative. And then I always what to say, know the differences, and I don't force them to be the same. Let them think differently, because you know they bring to the classroom experience and prior knowledge, schemata of the classroom. So I take that into account. Our students, yeah, some are good, some are not very good. Why? Because they come from different high school. Some of them come from pesantren, some of them come from pesantren terpadu, some of them come from school, regular school. Usually regular school, like, you know, when I had my student, Ibu Nasria, she was a very good student. Why? Because she come from Bustano Ulum. So I had also my student, Pak Habibur Rahim, and Pak Jarjani. When they took my class, yeah, they were not very good. Why? Because they come from a regular school. They never practice practice English, but no, they are better than me. Maybe better than Ibu Nashria. Yeah, in a couple months probably they will get professor, right? So I seriously take into account the differences, and I seriously accommodate, implement this constructivism. If teacher teach using curriculum 2013, curriculum 2013, as an umbrella of constructivism, when they observe and ask questions and explore and discuss and communicate and present the material, that's constructivism, actually. So we just follow the curriculum 2013. At the beginning, I didn't agree, but I studied and studied. It's a good one, actually. But unfortunately, yeah, not as said at the beginning. There is a corner that a teacher could discuss, could ask questions, could how to implement that, etc. That's vet, vet. Yeah, vet away. I don't know teacher. Most teachers use traditional method. Why? Because they don't use curriculum 2013. And curriculum 2013 means constructivism. And we are here, yeah, more or less, KKNI, also constructivism, yeah. And like authentic assessment, we will do authentic assessment. There are methods, it depends on us. What method, what technique you use in the classroom. When you use cooperative, group discussion, etc., assignment and work together, give opportunity to our students to do presentation, etc. And we lead them, we control them, we facilitate them, we keep them on the right track, and we follow, we ensure that no misconception, we get what to say to strengthen, enrich, etc. It's constructivism. Constructivism is broad theory. Yeah. Okay. So under constructivism, there are a lot of small theories actually. I think, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sharwan. I think, basically from my experience, our lecture tried to integrate constructivism to the discussion to students, but maybe a different background also influence how students wanted to discuss in their study. And then this is the question for Ibu Nas about gender. Ibu, what is the difference between gender equality and gender equity? I think both has a more or less similar definition, but quite a substantial one. Maybe Ibu, can you explain more about gender equality and gender equity?
Okay, thank you very much. I've seen there are other questions for me.
Yeah.
And
do you want to get all?
Yeah, I think that I need to gather all the questions.
Oh, okay, okay. I think also one is from Muhammad Fabriansyah about in the English textbooks, people of color do not exist. Yeah, even if it does mention, it's only about 10%. When we see frequently white people often being mentioned, being main characters in that book. Also in the Arabic book as well. So maybe Ibu can we also try to direct about this. And this is about the textbook. Also from Risa Fitria, since we live in a patriarchal community, how can future teachers be sensitive or be aware of gender bias that exists in books? This is also quite a challenge for us, I think. Ibu, if you want to try answering this first.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna start from Febriansyah. Febriansyah is my student. How are you, Febri?
Okay.
Okay. Febri, actually, yeah, this is another issue. This is another, this is not gender discrimination, but this is talking about another discrimination, because talking about gender discrimination, there are certain, we may divide into certain aspects, but also discrimination between culture issue. From English textbook, we always find white color figures instead of dark color figures. So this is another issue. So that's why talking about the design of the book, we have to be careful. So when we use certain book, we also have to be careful, because talking about textbook, most of the time, not only student but also teacher taken for granted for the content and the concept in it. And students all the time are exposed with those things. When we are exposed about that thing, we think that this is the right one. This is the problem. While this is not. So it's also another issue to investigate. This is another, if you want to focus on that, this is also another thing to become a research to do. And for Pak Samsul Bahri, equality and equity. Actually, what we want is equity. But talking, actually, I want to show you the differences. My mobile phone is broken, so there are lots of picture lost, and I want to show you a picture shows what is different between. Okay, I'm gonna share this between equity and okay. Can you see this? It's hard for me to. This is equality and equity. This is the difference between equality and the equity. Equality is most of the time we are given the same, even though the term it should be equity actually, but talking about equality is hard to gain, what let alone equity. this is another issue. Maybe why we always raise the issue of equality, maybe because we try to divide into the struggle of this. Actually, we talk about the struggle that we are doing right now. It's not easy. As there are some comment here also. We live in a patriarchal society. It's not easy to struggle with that thing, because only those who experience discrimination, who can seize that, who can feel that, not the one that who doesn't feel that. That's a problem. So they cannot say it, they cannot feel it. So that's why there are, in our struggle, there are times we try to make a kind of like, it's like what we call roadmap, because roadmap talking about we long process, we have to divide into certain aspect. So the first one, we have to fight against the equality, and next time we try to fight against we fight against equity. But actually, truly speaking, equity is the one that we want. But the problem, in our struggle among the women itself, so most of the time we focus on the equality first. Maybe there are certain situations later we will fight for equity. This is my I think my best answer for the reason. And when we talk about issue that is raised by Risa Fitria and Bu Khairia, we live in a patriarchal society, and how to, again and again, I know this because I have already read about this. I like joining about this, and so I can see that. And also I try to share it with other people. This is the way to lessen and to also to highlight other people to know about this. This is why I raise this issue here, because not many lecturers knows about this. Even though they knows about this, it doesn't mean they agree with that too. So this is also like when we teach students, the first point is we have to teach them. They have to know that. But knowing thing doesn't mean they understand it. Understand it doesn't mean they can master it. They can practice it. And also this happened to this situation. The first thing that we have to do, of course, we have to learn about this. We have to talk about this. We have to share what we know to other students, to especially to teachers, and we use certain book. We have to be aware about this. I think that's my best answer for this. Okay, Kana?
All right, Ibu, thank you for integrating all the questions into one time answer. Yeah, the questions of gender bias in academic textbooks is quite interrelated, so we cannot ignore one without mentioning the other. Thank you, Ibu Nas. And then
Okay, I want to answer a question. Yeah.
Yeah, to Mr. Sharwan.
Samsul Bahri.
Oh,
Samsul Bahri, yeah.
Yeah, which question, sir?
Ask me very good question. The difference between concept, theory, and construct.
Oh, okay. All
so
right.
you know, we have mentioned that concept, the concept of elephant, animal that has big animal, has trunk, has ivory, big body, and big leg, small eye, big ear. So we describe this concept of an elephant. So now, what about construct? Yeah, this is an ideal question. I would say PhD students' question or PhD holders' question. So construct, when you do the research, the concept means construct in what you study. Do you see that construct validity, for example? Does the researcher, does the respondent mean the same thing as the researcher means? You know, yeah, for example, when you write the library, maybe the respondent doesn't see that a library. When you write, for example, in your questionnaire, something, the word, for example, environment. That's why when you do your research, you have to validate. You have to invite, for example, expert in that field, and then you might want probably to pilot test. Maybe what you mean, the respondent do not mean like that. It means they don't have the same perception, same vision, share meaning, the same understanding, same concept, for example. That's why construct. Construct when you write your thesis, construct means also concept. Yeah, so that's a good question. And then theory, when I finished my studies I finished my PhD at University Malaya, one of professor asked me to produce theory. So I got very confused. How to produce theory? And I browsed dissertation, and University Malaya is high standard, has a very high standard. So I follow the dissertation from University in the United States. No theory at the end. Yeah, so I finally, after sitting in the carrel, browsing hours and hours, day after day, I found that theory, conclusion is theory. For example, the finding, your finding, you put in point on the how principal of excellence school in Aceh practice instructional leadership. So point per point, that's characteristic we put at the head, at the head of the statement or point, characteristics of excellent school principal leadership in Aceh. So that's theory. So theory, yeah, formed from research, conclusion of your research. Sometimes you reject previous theories because wrong. You can prove previous theory finding, previous conclusion is wrong. So use theory. Yeah. Sometimes expert say something more likely if like this, more likely like this. That's theory. They find that from research, different from concept, different from construct. I think that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Now I think we all already understand about the three different characteristics of concept, construct, and theory. I always think that concept and theory are two similar things. So now I think it's not anymore. I have to reconstruct my own thinking then. Okay, Pak Syarwan, another question for you from Rina. I want to ask about an obvious character that can be seen that makes constructivism different from other learning theories. I'm not sure what about the character.
Okay, so I presented three grand theories, yeah, behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Behaviorism, that focus on the stimulus response. So focus on the change of behavior of the student that can be observed. Yeah, can be observed. Yeah, can be measured. That's too limited at that time. Actually, learning process not only outside, but also mental process, the process inside. Yeah, student get information, and then by observing, by seeing, by touching, by observing, etc., and then they process, and then like computer, yeah, process, internal process, yeah, mental process from input, throughput, and output. That's better. That's improve the behaviorism. And then between cognitivism and constructivism, actually not very clear cut. But yeah, constructivism, the current one, yeah, not only process, but when the student learn something, not just process and produce, but yeah, they assimilate, they accommodate, because they have prior knowledge, and then they create meaning, yeah, by their own, by learners himself, herself, yeah. So yeah, sometimes the student just accept, but sometimes they have to change their schemata, their prior knowledge. Their schemata was wrong. Yeah. Sometimes they have to add new schemata, add new knowledge. That's we call this equilibrium. When this equilibrium happen, student learn something, because that's different from their prior knowledge. So there are a lot of theories, for example, like what to say, theory Cahayas, what to call. There are a lot of theories, but the umbrella is constructivism. I forget the theory on learning, that can help student help each other. Good student can be teacher, etc. So I don't know the name of the theory. In fact, the umbrella is constructivism. A student create knowledge. The student themselves make meaning. Students themselves produce, or to say, make knowledge, create knowledge, construct knowledge, yeah, based on the prior knowledge. So yeah, so this theory is actually a broad grand theory. Grand, like you say, Masjid Raya, grand mosque, you know. That's theory Raya, grand theory. That's why I call learning philosophy. Some experts, some learning psychologists call this learning philosophy. So we have actually national philosophy, Pancasila, and we have also educational philosophy, and we have learning philosophy. So learning philosophy is constructivism that is recommended by experts up to now, from 1980s, yeah, up to now, there's umbrella, what to say, teaching learning process. I think that's my explanation.
All right, Pak Sarwan. Is there any more questions to Pak Sarwan? There is one more question to Ibu Nasriah about gender again. In academic environment, Ibu, from Hijatul Kamaria, we know that female students dominate our classrooms in whatever institution they study, but when females develop their professionalism, they quite often against social pressure. What do you think the female should do to get through that pressure and still confident to achieve their professional development?
Jatul Kamaria, yeah. Okay, thank you, Hijah, for the question. This is a very good question, actually, and it happens to me, actually. Okay, Satkar says, and based on her research, actually, the environment that we build in education has made women lots of academic potential and also make them less assertive because the environment have been made. Okay, truly speaking, when we look at the student who is keep silent, and we are very happy with that because they don't bother us. But actually, this is not good. Make them less assertive. While assertive character is one of the things to build, especially when they have finished study, when they have finished from the university, when they have to struggle to find job, looking for a job. Assertive is one of the character needed. That's why we have already seen every semester we'll see that from 1 to 10, the first rank of the student is female. But after that, where they are, they can fulfill the requirement in education because it fits to them. But in the reality, they will find the fact not only because they are accustomed with this with this secure situation, and the assertive character is not built there. While the contradictory, because male student like doing trouble thing, assertive is built there. So when they have finished, it's easy for them because talking about fighting is there, has been built in the school. This is that's why what should we do? Yeah, we have to be, when we know about this, we have to build our self-confidence that we can gain, that we can do that. But the problem is not only about we can do that. There are times we know that we can do, but we know we realize the situation that will happen, what we will face later. But as long as this position, I think that you know the consequence. The problem in gender, actually, we are forced to do the one that we do not want. This is the one that we are against. When we do what we want, it's okay because we have already known the consequence of this. I want to show you about what happened to me. Actually, I had a chance to go to pursue my PhD degree abroad, but I choose to be here. I choose to study here. Why I choose this? I try to see the environment. I try to calculate the struggle that I will face when I have to study there. I have to leave my family. I try to assess, reflect on my own. Why should I study? Who should I study with? And why should I study that? Who and what for? And I just realized I don't want what I got, and then I will lose another thing, and another that I really love. Because I asked my husband, can we go study? Because when I was in Liverpool in UK, he joined me. And I want to do the same thing in PhD degree. But he didn't want to join me. And I tried to think, what is the situation will happen to me? And I don't think that this is not what I want. That's why I decide myself, I don't want to do that. So I take my PhD degree here. And I know the consequence of it. I don't have a scholarship because when I want to pursue that, I have been guaranteed by a leading figure here, I will get scholarship there. But when I take my PhD degree here, I didn't have any scholarship. But since I decide by myself, I want to take my PhD degree here, and there is no scholarship, I paid by myself. So, Hijatul Kamaria, when we have already known the situation, the thing that we have to do, of course, we have to build our self-confidence. That's the first thing. And when you do it based on your choice, pursue it. But again, try to calculate about the situation. I think that's it. Because what happened, you will face it. You will experience. For me, as long as I'm not against my religion, my, what is it, tradition, adat, I don't care about other things. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay, if no more question for me, I will ask question to Ibu Nasria.
Boleh itu.
Okay, apa nggak boleh? So yeah, Ibu Nasria looks biased also sometimes. So you see today, 1 man, 3 women in this presentation. Don't you see that in this webinar?
Okay.
So, Kana, Ibu Nasria, Ibu Watin, just me, myself here.
Oh, see. Is that what you call by gender bias?
Gender bias itu. In kampung, I agree. In kampung, for example, a wife do housework, take care of children. If there is an old man or a grandfather, has to be taken to bathroom, etc. done by wife, And when eating time, that's different. Wife is waiting for behind, after husband eat, and wife follow the rest, whatever they have. So I think in kampong still, in here not anymore. In our department, how many? Don't you count? In our probably a lot of women also. Yeah, I think be careful with the bias. I think that's all.
I see. I disagree with that. Okay, talking about panelists, I still remember when Fabi upload a flyer, consists of lots of speakers and no woman at all. And actually also because nowadays there is all male feminists, there is a movement about against all male feminists, and also I'm against all female feminists panelists. So for me, in a panel situation, especially the topic is about general thing, it should be I don't ask about equal, but at least one or two other sexes exist there, present here. And here, I don't think that you are one of the, what I can see that you are the representative of men here. So, and Bu Watin actually, it actually doesn't exist there. He is only a sponsor. We invited her because he came the first there. Okay, I don't think that it does exist in this situation. So that's my argument about this. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's quite an interesting point of view, Pak Sherwan, about us being gender biased in today's webinar. I thought it just a coincidence. But,
Coincidence.
because it's quite impossible that we will have two moderators, one man and one woman. So one moderator should just moderate two speakers. But we try to be quite balanced by inviting one male speaker and one female speaker. So this is not a bias issue here. I hope so.
Yeah,
And
that's about awareness, you know. Next time when you hold, what to say, event like this, you have to count how many men have you had,
that's one
how
of
many
the
women have you had. So you have to count that. So that's equality. You try to be equity.
Equal numbers of male and female, Pak, ya. So today's webinar, I think if no one asking any more questions, I would like to conclude the presentation from Pak Sherwan and Bu Nas.
Okay, thank you.
I think, yeah, constructivism, from my understanding, has been quite around, but the theory itself, I just know it today. I'm sorry for being so ignorant, but I think I always refer this theory as a student-centered learning in classroom.
Okay,
so,
the most important thing is mindset. So when you are teaching, you know, you become a tutor, your mindset should be constructivism.
Yes.
Mindset is very important.
And
change your mindset.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Sherwan, for your wonderful presentation about making us aware about constructivism, and also Bu Nas for being for giving us a new awareness about gender bias. I already already learned about gender bias from my master's degree when we tried to analyze some questions in some tests which located bias in minority groups, including gender. So yeah, there are questions that referring some like math for men and a language for female. That's also bias issue that we consider, that why female always being correlated to being language smart, and why men always being correlated with being knowledgeable in science. That's also bias. And then, well, after all, we have done quite a lot, ya Bu. Pak Sherwan, thank you once again for being here with us, and for sharing any information that hopefully will benefit ourselves and also all the participants here who already asking questions for us to be more understanding about two topics today. And so Azan is now for Asar. I would like to close the webinar by saying Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for having invited me. Inviting, or I invite myself. Okay. Thank you everyone who has been already here. Thank you, Alfiatun Nur, Ayuna Neta, Aziza, Azmi, Dara, Dina. Oh, Dina, my student. Eli, Haryani, Fitria, Hayatul Muda, Hijatul Kamaria. Ada Ian juga, Pak Ian nih. Ada JJ, Liza, Mafira, Mawaddah, Muhammad, Febriansa, Mulyani. Bu Muna is also here with us. Rina, Risa, Nur Amalia, Risa, Rita Hermida. Thank you, everyone. I think I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna leave. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Are we going to have a photo session? No? Oh, no. So we just close it.
Okay, thank you, Kana. Thank you to everybody.